Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Star Wars Showdown. I'm Zach.
And I'm Tim.
And today we are picking our top 8. We're actually drafting our top 8 picks from the greatest movie of all time. Not even the greatest Star Wars movie, but the greatest movie of all time. Of course, I'm talking about The Empire Strikes Back, so stay tuned. All right, so we are going to be drafting our top picks from Empire Strikes Back, which is going to be insane. I don't know. At first, I thought it would be difficult because we both are going to want to pick a lot of the same things. But then I realized it's not going to be so difficult because there's so many awesome things in this movie to pick from. So I actually think this is going to be just super fun. But I am curious to see which of us gets which picks. So we're going to be going through that. We're going to be drafting, going back and forth. I'll start. So I'll do the first pick. Tim will do the second and third pick. I'll do the fourth and fifth pick. You'll do 6 and 7, and I'll do 8. And those, of course, form a bracket, and you can check out our website to vote on that bracket and help determine who's going to be the winner of our Empire Strikes Back bracket for all time. So are you, without further ado, are you ready for me to dive into my first pick?
I am very ready for this pick. I've been waiting for this pick for a while.
Before I make the pick, do you haven't seen my list, right? Do you have any predictions? Do you have one prediction that you think is going to be?
I definitely have predictions, but I'm not going to tell you.
Before we start recording, I think you said Darth Vader would be my pick. No one picked Darth Vader in the spoiler in the New Hope episode. I almost feel like he's too big to pick.
He's a very large man.
Yeah, I'm curious if you ever actually go for it, but so you don't want to guess.
I don't want to give you any more ammo than you need.
You know I don't need ammo. I have ammo.
Let's hear it, Zach.
All right, my number one pick, it will not surprise anybody, is the moment I am your father.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
Not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
No!
Luke, you can destroy the Emperor. He has foreseen this. It is your destiny. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. Come with me. It is the only way.
Of course, one of the greatest, scratching off the list. I think this is one of the greatest cinematic moments, and it's the thing. I saw this for the first time when I was like 8. You watch the first one, and you start, it's an epic story, and then you get to the second one, and all of a sudden, in this one moment, not only does it represent the, if you follow the hero's journey stuff at all, it's kind of the bottom, right? This is the like peak bad of Rebellion's not doing so great. Luke's not doing so great. Han isn't doing so great. And so it's all these bad things happening in a movie you're having to deal with. But then to learn that the person that seemingly is at the helm of all of this bad that's happening, it's not so black and white anymore, right? Because the story sets up the Force even as light and dark, right? The rebellion is obviously good and the Empire is obviously bad. And until this moment, I think you necessarily view Star Wars in a very black and white lens. And then this moment happens, which is, of course, you find out that Vader is Luke's father. And it just can't be black and white anymore, right? And I love these moments in movies that, once revealed, changes the perception of what you've already seen and known. Because even in now watching back all of the movies, obviously, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and you start understanding Vader's actions through this recognition of him being Luke's father. And it's a different vibe, right? You just kind of assume Vader's the bad guy and he has completely bad intentions. and then you have to start asking a whole lot of questions. So I think it adds meaning to other elements of the movie, and it just represents. I know as a kid, right? I always love. I'm noticing patterns looking back at my childhood, but I always love the characters that either at one point or another were villains, and then did something heroic or became heroes. And it's funny. I mean, think about as an example, without even Tim and I didn't talk about this before. Who was one of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball Z?
Piccolo?
Definitely Piccolo, right? Naturally. It's like, and this is the funniest one, which I've been getting into lately because there's a board game for it, but Power Rangers. It's like, who was my favorite Ranger? The White Ranger.
Yeah. Who
was formerly the Green Ranger, who was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like there's the whole big arc where he's like, they're fighting against Tommy, right? And then he becomes the White Ranger, kind of a thing. Anyways, so you start seeing it, even like as ridiculous as it is, my wrestling, right? It's almost the anti-hero thing. Yeah. But it's this recognition that like, it's not black and white. There's more going on. There's motivations. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. And it makes it evident there's a lot of things obviously about Vader that we don't know. We assume he's just this evil guy. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, he has a kid, at least one, no, obviously two. And so it's like something awful happened to this guy, right? So,
I mean, I think it has to be what Vader is.
Yeah, but I look at someone like Tarkin, and it's like I don't necessarily think there was some traumatic experience in his life that made him that way.
I also don't think Tarkin is as evil as Vader is.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
it's different.
They're both evil.
I mean, he
quote unquote
he blow up a planet, right? I mean, like, so I feel like Tarkin is more like, by his nature, it's control, right? It's like order and control and militaristic and all this kind of stuff. And he's harsh, right? He's like the ends justify the means completely. Whereas, I mean, Vader is just like, it now is being revealed that he's messed up. Like there's some bad things going on, right? Anyway, so my pick is I Am Your Father. And that moment and everything it represents, it's not just the quote, it's the scene, the music, the revelation, the impact on the story. I think that moment in the story is the greatest darkness is always one of my favorite elements of any story. So I Am Your Father, pick number 1. Good luck to you.
That was a hot pick. Hot pick. Man.
Eddie, do you have anything to add about I Am Your Father? You want to help my case?
I mean, I think that the big thing is it just humanizes Vader, which makes him relatable, which makes you question a lot of things as a person. So it's very,
okay.
Like not only is it just surprising, but it's just all the implications that surprise has as well.
Sure.
Like you were saying.
And I feel like if you saw that in the theater and walked out, it's the kind of moment that everyone is like looking around at each other like. And I remember even us watching as kids, it's like the first thing was like, he's got to be lying.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of people thought
it's got to be a trick, and then it's not. It's very much not.
It is the truth.
All right, so what's your first pick of the Empire Strikes Back draft?
So my first pick, to counter that pick, I have to pick something I think will beat that.
Or you can send a pick to the grinder here.
I'm going to pick Tauntauns.
Steady. Hey, steady, girl. Hey, what's the matter? You smell something?
Of all the things to pick, you're going to pick Tauntauns.
I'm sending something to the grinder here.
All right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like
Tauntauns.
It was one of those moments whenever I was a kid. It's like, oh, this really is a different universe. Like we'd seen the cantina scene, we'd seen Chewbacca, we'd seen all these different aliens. But it's like, oh, here's this weird ice planet with these weird ice horses
that stand up on their hind legs.
Stand up on their hind legs that save Luke Skywalker. I mean, Han saves him, but it's because of the Tauntaun.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, if Tauntaun beats I Am Your Father in the first round, I will be flabbergasted.
I believe I get to go next, right?
Yeah, you did get the next pick.
All right. I'm going to go with another hot pick. I'm going to say the Luke versus Vader duel.
Okay.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
That is one of the most exhilarating and cinematic, quote-unquote, sword fights in cinema history. And it just is so iconic. It is so... the entire time you're watching it, you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh no, because Luke is so inexperienced fighting Vader.
Yeah.
You know, Luke's had a minuscule amount of training. It's like, there's no chance. And then, obviously, he doesn't win the duel. But... the entire time, it keeps you on your seat. It keeps you going back and forth. And you just feel like he has a shot. But then you find out that he does not have a shot.
So are there any particular moments that as you say it, I have a ton of things to add to it that I don't want to add to it to help your case. Are there particular moments about that duel that you find particularly like enlightening or exciting or notable or meaningful?
I mean... so I think just top to bottom, like we had seen Obi versus Luke, or not Obi versus Luke, Obi versus Vader before,
which was not the most like acrobatic.
No, it was very emotional.
Yeah,
but this one was just very physical.
You're kind of seeing lightsabers
really doing their thing for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not spinning around and going crazy or anything, but
I love the move that we see a couple times, which is when Vader basically disarms Luke.
Yeah.
Like not like literally when he disarms him, which comes in, but when they're fighting, he does the like spin where it like makes it where you just like can't help but let go of the lightsaber. Yeah. I think that was great. I think like what you were saying, and this is the thing you learn that makes you watch something differently. So you learn he's the father, right? Which is connected to my I am your father moment. But you also like there's a moment where Luke kind of gets Vader on the arm towards the end of the fight.
Yeah.
And you see Vader immediately not having it, right? It's like he gets hit and he's like, ah. And then within like 4 seconds, Luke loses a hand.
Yep.
So it makes it pretty apparent to me that when they're fighting, Vader is basically like
toying with him.
Well, he's seeing what he's got.
Yep.
And letting him think he's got a chance, right? But then like it's apparent when Vader really wants to end it. In the same way that makes me realize when Vader's fighting Obi-Wan that he's toying with Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan knows he's going to lose, right? Like he's old and Vader's a machine and like younger and whatever. But like it makes you recognize that even Vader's fighting Obi-Wan and he's not just immediately killing him, which he could have done. Unquestionably could have just ended it. And so then you're thinking like, was it hard for him to defeat Obi-Wan, right? When he's fighting Luke, it's like he is literally trying to get him in the carbonite and capture him, right? And then they're fighting, and then he's like trying to convince him to join him. And then once it's like, yeah, you have enough to like hurt me, and I'm not gonna like punt this one.
I won't stand by that.
It's just over. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, arm gone, no lightsaber.
No.
Now I'm gonna give you have no way out. I'm gonna give you the pitch, and like you're either gonna die or you're gonna join me, and we're gonna go beat the Emperor. All right, so that's your pick. Anything else to add to the Luke Vader duel?
I think that's it.
First duel, I guess, was what you could call it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So now I have to pick two in a row. It's funny. You said Tauntaun. I think you're gonna regret that because I'm gonna pick two things right here. So right now we have I Am Your Father, the moment versus Tauntauns, and then we have the Luke v Vader duel from Empire Strikes Back, their first duel. And I'm going to pair against that duel. Let me look through my list. I'm going to say I have to pick this one. It's the next on my list. Yoda. Across the board, Yoda is amazing. It is everything that I want the Jedi to be, right? Which is, and maybe I characterize the Jedi too much, or my hopes for the Jedi, and we'll get to this. I'm sure we're talking about the prequels. On how Yoda is, which is very like old and wise, and speaks in like riddles or just isn't super direct, right? But from the moment they get on Dagobah, right? I remember as a kid watching it for the first time, and you just see Yoda come on screen, and it's like you don't know it's Yoda, of course, right? But like he's just like, what's this little creature? And he's crawling in, trying to steal the food, and him and R2 have a little fight, and he's like hitting R2 with the Geimer stick. And then he's kind of just like probing and feeling out Luke, right? Where he's gaining information about his personality and his tendencies and stuff. And then, of course, you find out, wars not make one great lines. And then you find out that you seek Yoda, and they're trying to find him. And then they're having the soup, and then Luke's like, wasting time. I can't train. Whatever. And you find out it's Yoda. And again, it's this like the whole vibe of the movie of looks can be deceiving. And it makes you rethink whatever it is you were thinking. So I think he was an incredible introduction to the Jedi of old. It's great to have, one of the most powerful Force users ever come in such a hilarious package. He's just very funny. Everything I won't even take all of Dagobah, but like everything about the Jedi training and what's going on with Yoda, I think is awesome. So Yoda ranks really high just in general for me as a character. And I think his introduction at that moment in Luke's cycle as a character makes a lot of sense. So Yoda, all the quotes, do or do not, there's no try, all the training, etc.
Yoda's
super
baller.
Good. Yeah, Yoda is a prime pick for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with Yoda.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
The thing about Yoda to me that's so interesting is how it just subverts expectations. Like as a kid, you remember like, oh, he has to go train with the Jedi Master.
Yeah, and you're picturing like
it's gonna be like a warrior.
Strong, yeah.
Same thing Luke did.
Yeah.
But then you get that lovely Frank Oz.
You get Yoda, just goofy.
It's so funny.
Like the like laughing and the like.
Yeah, it's legitimately funny.
Yeah.
And it's just so mind blowing. It's like, oh, arguably the most powerful light side user in the universe is this silly little green man.
Yep. Well, and it also, the way they introduce it, right? So it's cool because you get Yoda doing that, and then you learn Vader's Luke's dad. Mm-hmm. So it's two moments of like not what you expect.
Yeah.
But also the way they essentially introduce him, he's secluded off on a planet. And so before you even know it's him, it's like, okay, if there's this big bad Jedi, why is he like having to hide? Like it must be that bad out there.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And so, you have to wonder that. And then you see Yoda, and it's like all of a sudden your definition of being strong with the Force changes, right?
Yeah.
Strong with the Force, right? It's like Ace lifts the X-Wing, right? Which is amazing. Great moment. But part of that too is that the recognition for me that being strong with the Force doesn't mean that you are powerful, right? He's wise. You know what I mean? Like, so
he's powerful too.
Yeah, but it's not like I think what I pictured was like what the dark side is ultimately, which is it is about power, and it is about control, and it is about being able to control people and do what you want. Whereas I think that's the beauty of the contrast, right? Where it's like being a powerful Jedi does not mean that you are in control. In fact, it's really the opposite, right? Which is submitting to the Force and saying, what's the will of the Force, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense in that context, even before we talk about the prequels, that Jedi almost are built to not win that race because, hate is always going to be willing to attack, whereas love is about defense, right? It's that setup, and it's like, it's very poignant.
It's about saving what you love.
Yeah. So Yoda's my pick.
It's a good one.
And now I get another pick.
You do.
And I'm gonna. So I only get one more pick after this. I have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
I have to really, really want this one. I'm going to say, this is going to pain you. You're going to have to cross-write 3 or 4 things off your list. One of my favorite parts of Empire Strikes Back are the bounty hunters. You're like, Tim loves Boba Fett. Side note. So I'm probably sniping picks here. But you basically have Vader contracting out bounty hunters to find Luke and Han and Leia, right? So you have that scene on the Executor where it's like Boba and Bosk and IG-88 and Zuckuss and Forlong and Dengar are the ones there. So that where it's like you have Vader hiring these like killers to go find the people he wants, and it's all the little details here where Vader tells Boba Fett, no disintegrations. And then they're chasing, and you get it. It's like you see these bounty hunters, and you really only get to see a significant more of Boba. The other ones kind of go elsewhere. But it's this this wide universe where that if you're one of the 6 bounty hunters that Vader brought onto the ship, they're bad people. Like they're probably bad to the bone and good at what they do. So each of these guys has a story. All the different costumes are great, and the obviously IG-88 is super cool. Like just having this is a killer droid. Like that's a cool concept. So I think the introduction of, and this is a great this is one thing Star Wars does so well, is that it's this lived-in, fully fleshed out universe without having to beat you over the head with it. And it's one of my favorite trademarks of Star Wars, right? Which is they show you 6 characters. And they interact with them a little bit, and then they give you a little more of one of them, which is Boba Fett. But they don't have to explain it all. I don't need to know IG-88 is a sentient robot that shares his consciousness across, a bunch of different droids. And I don't need to know that right now, right? I get 5 or 6 books on that and comic series and all that kind of stuff. So that's always stuck out to me. And I love the idea of basically Vader hiring these bounty hunters and working. It also shows that you have seemingly, right? Because it feels like the Empire is in complete control of everything. But then there's this recognition that there's this underbelly of the Empire. There's and go back to Jabba's palace, and there's the Outer Rim and stuff. Yeah. But it's the reality they're not completely in control, right? But it feels like it, and the heroes feel like that's the case. But it's, again, just showing you that this world is not completely black and white, and it's not just bad guys are in control, good guys are fighting them. There's another element to this.
I think it also, the imagery of, it's a pretty common analogy of squeezing sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it gets through the cracks.
100%.
And so I feel like that's what the Empire is trying to do, is squeeze tighter. But in reality, when they're squeezing tighter, what they're doing is...
Yeah, I think, doesn't Leia literally say that?
I don't remember.
I think Leia literally is telling Tarkin that, the tighter you squeeze, the more systems...
She might say something like that.
Something along those lines.
I think she uses the sand.
I don't think she says sand. But she basically is the more you're trying, the worse it's going to get for you.
Spoiler alert, it does.
Yeah. Yes, it sure does. So that's my pick.
So what would you call that pick? Bounty hunters?
The bounty hunters. Bounty hunter introduction, or Vader hires bounty hunters, or there's a price on your head, or no disintegrations is a good way of framing
So
that.
your one pick gets all of those things?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
I mean, it's the scratch. I mean, it's it's just that the introduction of the bounty hunters and Vader hiring them.
Yeah,
and that.
Yeah, I get you. That scene,
that thing is going on there. Yeah,
no, I'm there. I'm with you. So I get to pick something to go against that.
Yep,
and then I get another pick after that. And
those are your last 2 picks. Yeah.
Okay, so to go against the bounty hunters scene, I am going to pick Han Solo and the Princess, the song.
When in the movie does this song happen for the first time?
Do
you remember? I got you.
I don't remember. I just know the music, guys.
Okay.
You hear me? Huh?
I love you.
I know.
It just keeps going, and you're like, oh, this is different than it was before. Because you're expecting the same thing because Leia's around. But then it goes in a different direction. Yeah, it just is one of the most emotional pieces of music in Star Wars to me. And I would be remiss if I didn't pick it.
It's good. And it leads to one of my favorite lines in the movie that I probably won't pick. It's on my list, but I don't think I'll actually pick it, which is, I love you. I know. That line, I think that's a culmination of that.
That might be the first time we hear it in the movie.
I don't know. And I feel like it was when they kiss on the Falcon for the first time.
Maybe.
They're like getting close.
I don't remember. I'm sorry, guys.
You're gonna get caned for that one in the comments.
I'll be fine.
Okay, so
Han Solo and the Princess.
To kind of recap real quick before we get to the last pocket, we have I Am Your Father versus Tauntauns.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have what was your post Tauntaun pick?
The Luke versus Vader duel.
Luke versus Vader duel versus I don't remember what my pick was at this point. Yoda versus Yoda. Then we have the Bounty Hunter introduction versus the Han Leia theme.
Han Solo and the Princess.
Han Solo and the Princess. So we have a good mix right now.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the last pick. So we have a scene, we have a music piece, we have a creature, we have characters. What's missing?
I'll tell you what's missing, Zane.
Tell me what's missing. What's your pick? 7th pick of the bracket.
AT-ATs.
All right, AT-ATs. See, I almost think you could have... I won't trample over your pick, but I almost think you could have picked, like, Hoth.
It's on the list, too.
And then, like, AT-ATs, Tauntauns, the Battle of Hoth. You could... But, you don't want to trample on too many picks. But anyway, AT-ATs. Why do you like AT-ATs?
So, they're just so cool. You see, like,
Surely.
they're so inefficient, and they're so ultimately physically poorly designed. But man, do they look awesome marching down that white battlefield, and then you see them fighting against speeders and their heads are turning, and it's just like, those are awesome.
It's a really cool, like, seeing the various vehicles and technology in the universe is part of what makes it exciting and interesting. And even recognizing that there are basically vehicles or troopers or weapons for very specific environments and characters and things. That's really cool.
Yeah, it just was forever. I've always loved that battle scene. I mean, who doesn't? But then on top of it, it's just like introducing this series of vehicles that you'll learn more about later, the different versions of them that exist. But it's just so cool. And then you have like the airspeeders doing the tow cables as a way to beat them, and it's just like, oh, there's a big design flaw here. But
I mean, who would have expected speeders with tow cables? It's a, rather clever move.
AT-ATs.
AT is it AT-AT officially?
I mean, I think that they are called both everywhere.
Interesting. AT-ATs. AT-AT.
However
you want to call it, that's what they are. Okay, nothing else to say? All right, going into my final pick of the Empire Strikes Back bracket, I have some tough calls. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you what I'm choosing between, because I think it'll be interesting. And you can tell me if there's anything left on your list that you wish we'd gotten to. So, no one has said the Imperial March, which is, a lot of people don't know that it's not in A New Hope. It's funny, but they literally introduced that theme, the Vader theme essentially, in Empire Strikes Back, which is cool. We haven't said Lando Calrissian, not said, he was introduced in this movie. We haven't said Snowtroopers. Those are on my list, and I love Snowtroopers. That was the moment where it was like, oh, there's different types of troopers for different environments. That's so cool. That's how many people the Empire's got. This is sweet. We haven't said Force Ghosts. First time they were introduced was in this movie. We haven't said the Wampa. Like, you could also said the creatures in this movie, and I would have accepted it.
The reality is that you could choose any scene in this movie.
Yeah, you
there's something there.
So the two I'm really struggling between, and I don't know which one I want to pick yet, is the Force pull lightsaber out of the snow, the Wampa, because in the first movie, we don't ever really you see Vader do the Force choke, and you see Obi-Wan do the mind trick, but you don't ever see Luke. He turns off the targeting computer, sure, but like, you don't ever see him use the Force, and you're not sure if he can, and you're not sure what the extent of that looks like. So to see him in the opening of the movie essentially use the Force in that way, it kind of escalates what's capable with the Force. Like, you've never seen a lightsaber pulled with the Force, right?
Yeah.
We've seen a Force choke, but never like physically interacted with an object with the Force. The first time, that's very impressive. And the other thing I'm looking to pick is the recognition that Vader has a boss. So the introduction of the Emperor is pretty solid. So I'm going to say that's my pick. Introduction of the Emperor.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
I was like 51% this, 49% lightsaber pull.
Sure.
So I had to at least mention that it was there. But essentially, Vader, and this is another interesting thing. I think they did an immaculate job of this in the comics. Have you read the Vader comics? So
I read the first few, but
I read the kind of after you read the comics. I have the like whatever omnibus, the hardcover version.
trade paperback.
I don't know. Anyways, at the end, the author's talking about what inspired the story, and so essentially he says that, you know, in A New Hope, it's obvious that Vader's not in command. Like Tarkin's there, there's the Senate and stuff, and there's the other admirals and whatnot, and he's very much he's not in charge, even though you know he's super, like he could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah. No one's in charge of him, but he is not in charge.
Yeah. So in Empire Strikes Back, though, he's in charge.
Yeah. He's
in charge of the fleet. There are no admirals above him.
Mm-hmm.
He's appointing new admirals and killing admirals, right? It's like apology accepted, Captain Nita. And like it's him.
This movie's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's all the same movie. But he is in a different position there. So the Vader comics explore what happened. Like, Death Star gets blown up. Next time we see is Vader's in command. And they did an incredible job of this, I think, which is, if you haven't read the Vader comics, I highly recommend them. But essentially, we get to this, and he's obviously in command. So he's super scary and powerful. He's leading the fleet. They're chasing down. They're doing the Battle of Hoth, right? And he, is choking people to death left and right. And then all of a sudden, right, it's like the Emperor wants to talk to you. And it's like, wait a second. And then he goes into this chamber, gets down on the knee, and the Emperor's visage shows up. And Vader, on his knee, says, "What is thy bidding, my master?" And all of a sudden, right, again, it's this subverting expectations, where it's, and I don't want to use that too much because I know that was a term highly associated with Last Jedi in a negative context for a lot of people talking. But the reality is that all of a sudden, again, they slowly over the movie, it's like beginning of the movie, Vader's at the height of his power, right? It's like he's in command. You don't think anybody can stop him. And then by the end of the movie, you recognize that he reports to the Emperor. His son is Luke. He's not trying to just kill Luke. He's actually trying to talk to him and like capture him and has other intent. And so that moment for me, when you see Vader on his knee, just started crumbling the whole picture, right? And it starts going from this is crystal clear black and white to very dark shades of gray. And so I think that was just a very important moment for Vader and the movie, and just realizing what's really at stake in this trilogy, kind of a thing. Yeah. So I'm going to go on a record as saying the introduction of the Emperor appears, however you want to label it.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
My eighth pick. So to run the bracket down completely again, after going through all our ESB picks, we have my first pick was I Am Your Father. Your first pick was Tauntauns. Then your second pick was the duel between Vader and Luke. I keep tripping up on the Tauntauns. Between Vader and Luke versus Yoda. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Bounty Hunters versus
Han Solo and the Princess.
And then we have AT-ATs versus the Emperor's Introduction. And that's our bracket for The Empire Strikes Back. So if you're listening or watching, one, we really appreciate it. You can now find our show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. We are posting the episodes on YouTube. You can also find these on our website, starwarsshowdown.com. And we're going to be posting, we already did it for the first episode. You can basically vote on the brackets. And even if you're listening to these episodes way later in time, you can always go vote. And we'll check out the results occasionally over time to see if they're changing based on future people voting. But we were originally planning on doing results episodes where we took the results and we ran through them and that kind of thing. And we decided against that for now. So we're probably going to post the results in like blogs and talk about them and post them on social media and stuff. But if you're not following us, you can also find us Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
YouTube.
plus all the podcast stuff.
Yeah.
And we're again leading up to the release of The Rise of Skywalker. We're going to be doing all 8 of the episodic movies in release order. So we did A New Hope. We're doing Empire Strikes Back. Next episode will be Return of the Jedi. Then we're going to go way back into the prequels, which is episode 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll, of course, finish with 7 and 8. And then we'll see where we go from there. But the intent is obviously to do one for Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of exciting stuff for Star Wars coming, including The Mandalorian, which I'm super pumped about.
So excited for that one.
Yeah. And the Clone Wars Saved season. I'm super excited to see that. Comics, books, etc. So we really appreciate all of you watching. We very much appreciate you following and liking and commenting and sharing, and particularly for voting on the brackets. We've already had a lot of people doing that. And
Please vote.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And that's all we really got. You ready to get out of here?
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching. Until the next time, may the Force be with you.